Hi everyone and welcome to this Burke and Associates video. Today we'll be talking about VCAT administration. Both Tony and Rosie are currently appointed by VCAT as administrators to run the financial affairs of represented persons, with Tony having a long history of such appointments. My name is Emma Dickens and I am a member of the Burke and Associates VCAT Administration Team. I work closely with Tony and Rosie in assisting in the day-to-day administration work. Now, before we go further, let us clear up some of the legal jargon. Tony, what is VCAT?
Well, Emma, VCAT is an acronym. It's an acronym for the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal, which is a very large judicial body in Victoria, and it has a range of divisions. When we're dealing with VCAT administration matters, we're dealing with the Human Rights Division, which deals with matters under the Guardianship and Administration Act, although in recent times most of the hearings at VCAT have been dealt with by either video conference or sound conference. Perhaps Rosie can tell us a little bit more about how VCAT operates.
Thank you, Tony. Well, the Guardianship and Administration Act has been around for a number of years, but it's had some recent amendments to it. What we're here talking about today is the exercise of VCAT's power to appoint administrators to run the financial affairs of disabled people. So in other words, if someone becomes disabled and is unable to run his or her finances, VCAT can appoint either a family member, a friend, or independent professionals such as Tony and I to run the financial affairs of that person. This doesn't trump a valid power of attorney, but VCAT does have the power to set aside a power of attorney, and it often does if there is a dispute or there is evidence that an attorney has acted inappropriately for that power. Now, Tony, what are the usual circumstances in which you may be appointed as an administrator?
Well, Rosie, the circumstances vary enormously. There are circumstances where someone appointed under a power of attorney acts inappropriately, perhaps defrauds the elderly person, or someone dies. There are multiple situations that can enliven the jurisdiction of VCAT to appoint someone in place of an attorney, and quite commonly the attorney will find that the financial circumstances of the elderly person or the disabled person are just overwhelming. They may be too complex. So essentially my role as an administrator is to run the financial affairs, prepare and file various financial reports with VCAT, and look after the taxation obligations of the disabled person, and sometimes run businesses. I've had a wide variety of experiences as an administrator. On several occasions I've been required to run family law litigation. That's become necessary when the financial affairs of the disabled person have been blended with those of a spouse or a domestic partner, and it's been necessary to separate them. I remember one situation where I had to deal with the sale of a collection of antique racing cars, which was an extraordinary experience. I had to sell a number of properties, and on one occasion I was appointed to run the financial affairs of what has been acknowledged by VCAT as the largest estate under the VCAT jurisdiction of any single person. And that was an estate with collective assets through multiple trusts and multiple companies, and a wide variety of properties with a collective value well in excess of $100 million. There can also be family squabbles. I've had several situations where the children and the in-laws of a disabled person have formed various factions, and they've been at odds with one another, and we've had to have a series of mediations to try and disentangle and diffuse the disputes, and to get a calm, settled regime of management to get beyond that situation of disagreement and frank litigation. So it's very, very complex at times. Emma, can you give us a bit of an outline about how it all comes together? You're dealing day to day with the administration side of things. How does it all work?
Well, the front end of the task is very labour intensive. It's a process of gathering together a complete financial record of the represented person's affairs. As the represented person has a disability, it's not unusual to find that their records are in a state of disarray. Tax may not have been done for the prior year or previous multiple years, and there can be lots of accounts outstanding. So, my role mainly, we gather together all the information and speak to a whole range of contacts that the represented person may have. It is then
So, just to summarise that, Em, you're distilling order out of chaos. Someone comes in with a bloody big mess, and you've got to try and make some
we
sense
sort
of
it
it.
out, yes,
Yeah.
and put everything back together.
And you do it extremely well. You do.
So, following on from that, it's then a process of collating this information into a systematic and organised fashion, as Tony's just mentioned. We pay any overdue bills, notify the relevant financial institutions and authorities of our involvement, and establish a business and management plan for the represented person's financial affairs moving forward. By understanding these tasks, the costs of the future administration of the matter drop away considerably.
Rosy, this of course costs money. On the question of costs, can you give us an idea about how VCAT sets in place a regime to protect the represented person, or that we haven't explained, but the represented person, of course, is a disabled person. That's the jargon in VCAT, represented person. Are there any aspects of the costing process that protect a represented person?
Yes, Tony, there definitely is. We are often appointed with VCAT making an order for us to be paid as independent lawyers, so Tony and I, to be paid on the basis of a scale of costs, which is known as the Practitioner Remuneration Order. Now, this is set by the Supreme Court of Victoria for non-contentious legal issues, and it sets out a scale of rates for various different tasks that we usually do. Now in our firm, for example, we have our files independently costed by a cost consultant, and then we further have that next step of VCAT having to approve those accounts. Now,
So there's multiple levels of oversight.
there are, yes.
Yeah.
And our accounts are usually only prepared on a quarterly basis. And VCAT, they get sent off to VCAT. VCAT then takes the time to review those accounts, and it will then provide an order approving those costs that are then to be paid from the financial resources of the representative.
So it's a very transparent sort of process. There are multiple layers of overview.
It is, and we have that extra step of that independent cost consultant to review the work that's being done and making sure that that is reasonable for the represented person and to be paid by them. Now, aside from independent cost consultants, Emma, can you tell us a bit more about other professionals that we deal with on a regular basis?
Yes, so we deal with a lot of other professionals. They can include investment advisors, accountants and bookkeepers, doctors and medical professionals, mediators, real estate agents. There is also numerous other range of professionals and tradespeople that we deal with depending on the individual matter and the individual circumstance. Tony, you've been involved in VCAT administration work for a number of years now. What do you take away from your work in this VCAT administration space?
That's an interesting question, Emma. Some lawyers tend to look down on work at VCAT. I think they're wrong, at least in relation to the work in the guardianship list. In the course of my nearly 40 years as a lawyer, I've been involved in litigation in, I think, every court in Victoria, and I've also been involved in litigation going all the way to the High Court of Australia. But aspects of the VCAT administration work are more intellectually demanding and challenging than any of the other work that I've done. Effectively, I've been appointed in circumstances where I've been required to run a business that I'm not familiar with. I've been required to administer a very, very complex estate, way beyond the sort of estate that I would normally deal with in a probate field, for example. And in the process of doing so, I've been dealing with the wide variety of people that you've described in who we have involvement with, and it's been stimulating to work in an environment with a team of skilled professionals to deal with the financial affairs of someone with a disability. And I guess I'm a bit of a control freak. I take a great deal of pleasure and pride in restoring order where there's been some degree of chaos. It's very satisfying to apply the extensive learning that I've developed over a wide variety of legal areas and over my decades in the law.
Thank you to Tony and Rosy, and thank you all for watching. Please don't hesitate to reach out to our team if you've got any queries.